Today, we're diving into something really fascinating, the gifted mind. We're going to look at how some of those traits, the ones you might have been told are flaws, could actually be your biggest strengths. So let's jump right in. Okay, let's start with a question. Have you ever been told you overthink things? Or maybe that you're too sensitive? Or that you just ask way too many questions? Yeah, if any of that sounds familiar, you are definitely in the right place. I mean, those comments can really make you feel like something's wrong with you, right? But what if they're actually pointing to something incredible? So here's the big idea we're going to unpack. These quirks, they're not really flaws, not at all. They're more like signs, indicators of a brain that's just wired a little differently. A mind that sees and feels the world with, well, a whole lot more intensity and complexity. And that leads us to this. This is the question at the very heart of our explainer. What if these things we've been calling warning signs are actually hallmarks of a completely different way of thinking? Instead of seeing them as problems to be fixed, we're going to flip the script. We're going to reframe them as the defining features of a really powerful and unique mind. All right, let's get something straight right away. When we say gifted, we're not just talking about a high IQ score. Forget that stereotype. For our purposes, it's about a state of heightened awareness, a mind that actually craves complexity, and just a fundamentally different, and often way more intense, way of experiencing the world around you. Okay, so now let's get to the heart of it. We're going to walk through the 7 hallmarks, and for each one, we'll take a common warning sign and see how it's actually a powerful strength in disguise. All right, let's kick it off with number 1. You know that person, maybe it's you, who is always asking why? Well, that's not about being difficult or annoying. It's the hallmark of intense curiosity. It's this deep, fundamental need to understand how things work, to take everything apart and see how all the pieces connect. It's a hunger for knowledge that just isn't satisfied with simple, surface-level answers. Okay, on to number 2. The classic. You're overthinking it. Sound familiar? Well, let's reframe that. This isn't overthinking, it's deep processing. It's not about just thinking too much. It's the incredible ability to absorb huge amounts of information, look at it from every single angle, and spot those hidden patterns that most people just miss. Seriously, that's not a flaw. That's a superpower. Next up, number 3. This one's a big one for a lot of people. Being told you're too sensitive. Ugh. But what if that's not a weakness? What if it's actually heightened emotional intensity? It's the capacity to experience all the emotions, the good and the bad, with this incredible depth and richness. And you know what? That's where real empathy, compassion, and passion come from. Hallmark number 4. So, what about getting bored super easily? It's not what it looks like. It's actually a high need for stimulation. Think about it. If your mind is like a high-performance engine, it needs fuel. It absorbs info really, really fast, so of course it gets restless without a new challenge. It's not a short attention span. It's a brain that's just constantly hungry for the next puzzle, the next idea. All right, let's look at number 5. Ever been called argumentative, especially when something just feels unfair? Well, that's not about picking fights. It points to a really strong sense of justice. It's this powerful internal moral compass that just can't let injustice slide. It's this deep feeling of responsibility to stand up and say, hey, that's not right. Moving on to number 6. The daydreamer. Head in the clouds, right? Wrong. That's not just spacing out. It's the sign of a rich inner world. Think of it like a laboratory inside your head. It's the engine room for all creativity, for innovation, for solving tough problems. It's not about escaping reality. It's about building new ones. And finally, let's tackle number 7. This one can often feel more like a curse than a gift. I'm talking about that crippling perfectionism. But let's look at where that comes from. At its root, it's an innate drive for excellence. Now, don't get me wrong, it can be a huge challenge. But that drive comes from a deep, powerful desire to meet incredibly high standards, mostly the ones you set for yourself. The trick is learning how to use that fire without getting burned. Okay, so we've laid out all 7 hallmarks, but just knowing about them is only the first piece of the puzzle, right? The real question is, what do you do with this information? Now we're going to talk about how to actually harness these traits and turn them into the superpowers they're meant to be. So let's just quickly recap. We've got intense curiosity, deep processing, heightened emotional intensity, a high need for stimulation, a strong sense of justice, a rich inner world, and that drive for excellence. The key thing to remember is that these aren't just a random list of traits. They're all connected. They feed into each other. Your curiosity leads to deep processing. Your emotional intensity is what fuels your sense of justice. It's a whole system that makes you, you. So how do you actually do it? It really boils down to 3 simple steps. First, just recognize them. See these traits in yourself, and this is the important part, do it without all that old judgment. Just acknowledge they're there. Step 2, reframe. Actively start seeing them as 2 sides of the same coin. Yeah, there's a challenge, but there's also an incredible strength. And finally, step 3, embrace it. Own your unique way of seeing the world, and then go find the people, the jobs, the places where that way of thinking isn't just tolerated, but is actually celebrated. You know, it really all comes down to this idea. The things that make you different, those are the things that make you powerful. It's so simple, but so true. Those quirks, the things you might have spent years trying to hide or fix, they are the exact source of your power, your creativity, and what you have to offer the world. So I'm going to leave you with this one final question to really chew on. What if your greatest quirks are actually your greatest gifts? Just think about that for a second. What if all the things you've been fighting against are the very things you should be leaning into? Imagine what could be possible then.